The Varanthi had never lost a war. In 2,000 years, they had conquered 164 worlds. Every planet they visited fell to their power. Every species they met either surrendered or died. This was the way of things. This was the natural order of the universe. Admiral Kethvor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Supremacy. He watched the blue and green planet grow larger on his viewing screen. His 4 eyes studied it carefully. His mandibles clicked together in a gesture of satisfaction. "Earth," he said quietly. "World number 165. His tactical officer, a younger Varanthi named Dreth, stepped forward with a data tablet. "Admiral, our scouts have completed their analysis. The dominant species calls themselves humans. They are primitive. They still burn dead plants for energy. They fight wars among themselves over invisible lines drawn on maps." Kethvor made a sound like laughter. "They always fight among themselves. The Veleth did. The Krix did. It makes conquest easier." "They do possess nuclear weapons," Dreth added. "Enough to destroy their own world several times over. And yet they have not used them." Kethvor turned away from the screen. "This tells me they are afraid. Fear is useful. Fear makes species surrender quickly." The Admiral walked slowly across the bridge. Around him, hundreds of Varanthi officers worked at their stations. They controlled a fleet of 4,200 warships. 12 million soldiers waited in those ships, ready to land on Earth and begin the harvest. The Varanthi took everything from conquered worlds. They took resources. They took technology. They took the people themselves, turning them into workers and servants. "How long until we reach optimal bombardment position?" Kethvor asked. 6 hours, Admiral." "Good. Prepare the standard ultimatum. We will give them 1 day to surrender. If they refuse, we will destroy one of their cities as a demonstration. They will surrender after that. They always do." The fleet moved through the solar system like a dark cloud. They passed the outer planets without stopping. They ignored the gas giants and the ice worlds. Only Earth mattered, only the blue planet with its billions of humans. On Mars, small human research stations detected the approaching fleet. The scientists there sent frantic messages back to Earth. On the Moon, mining crews stopped their work and stared at their screens in horror. The messages they sent were full of fear and confusion. By the time the Varanthi fleet reached Earth orbit, every human on the planet knew they had arrived. Television stations interrupted their programs. Radio stations broadcast emergency alerts. World leaders held emergency meetings. Military forces around the globe went to their highest alert status. But what could they do? Their weapons were designed to fight each other, not an alien armada that blotted out the stars. Admiral Kethvor watched all of this with amusement. He had seen it 164 times before. The panic, the fear, the desperate attempts to organize some kind of defense. It was always the same. It was almost boring. "Broadcast the ultimatum," he ordered. The message went out on every frequency the Varanthi could access. It was translated into every major human language by advanced computer programs. Across Earth, billions of people heard the same words at the same moment. Species designation, human. You have been selected for integration into the Varanthi Dominion. Resistance ensures extinction. Compliance ensures survival. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender all governmental authority. Any attack on our vessels will result in immediate destruction of your population centers. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." Kethvor leaned back in his command chair and waited. The responses would come soon. Some leaders would beg for mercy. Others would make brave but empty threats. A few might even try to launch their primitive missiles. None of it would matter. What Kethvor did not know was that humanity had been listening to more than just his ultimatum. For decades, human radio telescopes had been pointed at the stars. Most of the signals they received were natural. Radiation from distant suns, echoes of the universe's birth, background noise of the cosmos. But sometimes, hidden in that noise, there were other signals, faint transmissions from far away. messages that were not natural at all. They were the final broadcasts of dying worlds, warnings encoded in mathematics, screams of terror from species that had faced the Voranthi and lost. A small group of humans had been collecting these signals. They had decoded them, they had learned what was coming, and they had begun to prepare. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, in a facility that appeared on no map, men and women had been working for 30 years. They studied ancient ruins that existed long before humanity evolved. They communicated with intelligences that did not belong to this dimension. They woke things that had been sleeping since before the dinosaurs died. Earth was not what the Voranthi thought it was. Humanity was not alone on their world. They had never been alone. When the response to the Voranthi ultimatum finally came, it did not come from the United Nations. It did not come from any government. It came from a frequency the Voranthi had never seen before, broadcasting from somewhere beneath the southern ice. The message was simple. It was calm. It contained no fear at all. "We have been expecting you. We decline." Admiral Kethvor read the message 3 times. His mandibles stopped clicking. For the first time in his long career, he felt something strange in his chest, something cold. He pushed the feeling away. It did not matter what the humans said. Words had never stopped the Voranthi before. "Target their largest southern city," he ordered. "Show them what happens when they refuse." The weapons charged. The targeting systems locked on. 18 million humans in a city called São Paulo went about their lives, unaware that death was falling toward them from the sky. Kethvor smiled. This would be quick. He was wrong. The plasma bombardment lances were the pride of the Voranthi fleet. Each one could turn a city into glass in seconds. They had burned 100 worlds. They had never failed. Admiral Kethvor watched his screen as the weapons fired. Bright lines of energy shot down toward São Paulo. He waited for the familiar flash. The mushroom cloud. The screams on human radio frequencies. None of it came. The plasma bolts stopped. They simply stopped, 3 kilometers above the city, as if they had hit an invisible wall. The energy spread out across something that Kethvor could not see. It looked like water hitting glass. Then the energy turned around. It came back toward the fleet at twice its original speed. Kethvor did not even have time to give an order. 14 ships vanished in nuclear fire. Thousands of Voranthi died in an instant. "What happened?" Kethvor roared. "Report!" His officers scrambled at their stations. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. On the viewing screen, the debris of 14 warships tumbled through space. "Unknown, Admiral," Dreth said. His voice was shaking. "Some kind of defensive shield. It reflected our own weapons back at us." "Impossible. No primitive species has such technology." "The evidence suggests otherwise, Admiral." Kethvor gripped the arms of his chair until his claws left marks in the metal. This had never happened before. In 164 conquests, no species had ever stopped a Voranthi bombardment. He took a deep breath and forced himself to think clearly. "Send ground forces. If we cannot destroy them from orbit, we will take the planet directly." Troop carriers began descending toward Earth, hundreds of them, carrying thousands of Voranthi soldiers each. They entered the atmosphere and headed toward the major continents. The first problems began over Asia. A carrier approaching China reported that its navigation systems had stopped working. The computers showed impossible readings. Mountains where there were none. Oceans where there was land. The pilot tried to fly manually, but his eyes told him different things than his instruments. The carrier crashed into a hillside. All hands lost. Over Europe, another carrier reported something different. The crew heard whispers, not through their communication systems, but directly in their minds. They heard voices speaking in languages that did not exist. They saw images of their homeworld, their families, their children. The pilot of that carrier set his ship down gently in a field and refused to move. When rescue teams reached him hours later, he was sitting in his chair, crying, repeating the same words over and over. They showed me everything. They showed me everything I did. Over North America, 3 cruisers flew in formation toward the eastern coast. They were halfway across the Atlantic Ocean when all 3 ships simply went dark. No explosion, no distress signal. They just stopped transmitting. Admiral Kethvor sent recovery teams to find the silent cruisers. They were still floating in the air, held up by their anti-gravity systems, but they were not responding to any signals. The recovery teams docked with the first cruiser and forced open the airlock. What they found inside made hardened soldiers vomit in their helmets. The crew was alive. All 300 Varanthi on board were still breathing, but none of them were awake. They sat or stood or lay wherever they had been when it happened. Their eyes were open. Their eyes were moving rapidly, as if watching something that was not there. The medical officer scanned them carefully. "They are dreaming," she reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "All of them. They are locked in some kind of dream state. I cannot wake them." "What are they dreaming about?" the team leader asked. The medical officer looked at her scanner readings. Her face went pale. "According to their brain activity, they are experiencing extreme terror. All of them. For them, subjectively, they have been having nightmares for what feels like years." "That is not possible. They went silent 40 minutes ago." "I am only telling you what the readings say." On the bridge of the Eternal Supremacy, Admiral Kethvor received report after report. Crashed ships, missing ships, crews driven mad, soldiers who refused to fight, and from Earth, nothing but silence. The humans were not shooting at them. They were not launching missiles or sending fighters. They were just waiting. "Admiral," Dreth said quietly, "I am detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface. Multiple locations, Antarctica, Siberia, the deep ocean trenches. Something is active down there. Something that was not active before we arrived." "What is it?" "I do not know, but the energy signatures are enormous, and they are getting stronger." Kethvor stared at the blue planet on his screen. For the first time in his life, he felt genuine fear. Not the small fear of losing a battle, not the fear of failure. This was something deeper, something primal. The feeling that he had made a terrible mistake, that they had woken something that should have been left sleeping. "Send a message to the Dominion," he ordered. "Tell them we have encountered unexpected resistance. Request reinforcements and scientific support." The communications officer worked at his station for a moment, then looked up with wide eyes. "Admiral, I cannot send the message. Something is blocking all long-range communications. We are cut off." The lights on the bridge flickered. In the darkness, just for a moment, Kethvor thought he heard something. A voice that was not a voice. A presence that was not a presence. Something was watching them. Something old, and it was not human. Commander Yethra was the finest xenologist in the Varanthi Dominion. She had studied 100 alien species. She had written the reports that helped her people conquer world after world. She understood how primitive minds worked. Admiral Kethvor brought her aboard the Eternal Supremacy because nothing about Earth made sense. "I need answers," he told her. "What are we facing? How are they stopping our weapons? What is happening to our crews?" Yethra did not answer immediately. She spent 3 days studying every piece of data they had collected. She read intercepted human communications. She analyzed the energy readings from the planet's surface. She interviewed the soldiers who had survived contact with the strange forces below. On the 4th day, she asked to speak with the Admiral privately. "What I am about to tell you will sound impossible," she said. "I had to verify it multiple times before I believed it myself." Kethvor leaned forward. "Tell me. Earth is not what we thought it was. We assumed the humans were the first intelligent species on this planet. We were wrong. Humans are simply the current species. There were others before them. Previous civilizations? That is not unusual. Many worlds have ruins of older cultures. These are not ordinary ruins, Admiral. Yethra pulled up images on the screen. Strange structures deep under the ocean. Impossible geometries frozen in Antarctic ice, tunnels that went down to the very core of the planet. These civilizations did not simply die out. They left things behind, defenses, machines, and in some cases, living intelligences that still function after millions of years. Kethvor stared at the images. You are telling me there are other species still alive on Earth? Not species as we understand them. Entities, beings that exist in ways our science cannot fully explain. Some of them exist between dimensions. Some of them are made of pure thought. Some of them are so old that they remember when this planet was still forming. And the humans know about this? Some of them do. Not many. Secret groups have been studying these things for over a century. They found ruins under the ice. They discovered things in the deep ocean. They made contact with intelligences that do not have physical bodies. Yethra changed the image on the screen. It showed a massive underground facility built into walls of ice that were millions of years old. Human scientists worked alongside machines that looked nothing like human technology. This is beneath Antarctica. The humans have been here for decades. They are not studying these ancient things anymore, Admiral. They are communicating with them, working with them, and when they learned that we were coming, they asked for help. Kethvor felt cold. The barrier that stopped our bombardment? Technology from a civilization that existed 40,000 years ago. The humans call them Atlanteans, though that is not their real name. They built a defensive grid around the entire planet before they vanished. It was dormant until we arrived. Now it is active. And the dreams? The nightmares affecting our crews? Something else entirely. In 1908, something fell from the sky in Siberia. The humans thought it was a meteor. It was not. It was a creature or part of a creature that exists partially in our dimension and partially somewhere else. The humans found it. They studied it. They learned to communicate with it. What does it want? We do not know. But it can touch minds across vast distances. It can show people things, make them experience things. The crews of those 3 cruisers are not just dreaming. They are being shown something. Maybe everything their victims ever felt. Maybe the pain of everyone the Voranthi have ever conquered. Kethvor stood up suddenly. His chair fell backward. You are saying this planet is defended by ancient gods? I am saying this planet is not a normal world. It never was. Something chose Earth long ago. Something made it special. The humans are just the latest species to live on its surface, but whatever protects this world protected the species that came before them too. Then why did they all die out? Yethra paused. Her eyes showed fear. I do not think they all did, Admiral. I think some of them are still here, watching, waiting, and I think we woke them up. She sent him one final piece of data. It was a communication intercepted from the Antarctic facility. A scientist was speaking to his superiors. Contact has been established. They are willing to help. But they want us to understand something. They do not see the Voranthi as enemies. They see them as food. They have been hungry for a very long time. They are asking permission to feed. Admiral Kethvor read the message 3 times. Then he gave the only order that made sense. All ships prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We are leaving this system. But when the engines activated, nothing happened. The stars did not blur. The ships did not move. Something had wrapped itself around the fleet like invisible chains. They were not allowed to leave. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a chamber that humans had not built, something ancient opened its eyes for the first time in 100,000 years. It smiled, and it began to feed. The vanishing began at 0347 hours, Earth Standard Time. Admiral Kethvor was in his private quarters trying to sleep. Sleep had become difficult since they arrived at Earth. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw things. Dark shapes moving at the edge of his vision. Voices whispering in languages that hurt to hear. He gave up on rest and walked to his door. The two guards who always stood there were gone. Kethvor stepped into the hallway and looked both ways. Empty. The guards had not been relieved. They had not walked away. Their weapons still lay on the floor where they had been standing. But the guards themselves were simply not there anymore. He activated his communicator. "Bridge, this is the Admiral. Report." Static answered him. Then a voice, broken and afraid. "Admiral, something is happening. Crew members are disappearing, all over the ship. We cannot explain it." Kethvor ran toward the bridge. The corridors that should have been full of soldiers were empty. Food sat on tables, half-eaten. Doors stood open to empty rooms. It was as if everyone had simply stopped existing in the middle of whatever they were doing. He reached the bridge. Only 7 officers remained out of the usual 40. They were clustered together near the main console, their faces showing pure terror. "Report," Kethvor demanded. "Admiral, we have lost contact with over half the fleet," Officer Dreth said. His voice was barely a whisper. "Ships are going silent, not destroyed, just silent. And on the ships we can still reach, they report the same thing. People vanishing, no warning, no pattern, just gone." "Gone where?" "We do not know. There is no energy signature, no transporter beam, no sign of attack. One moment a soldier is standing at his post. The next moment, he is not. His uniform falls to the floor. His weapon clatters down. But he is simply not inside them anymore." Kethvor looked at the tactical display. Red lights covered the fleet map. Ships that had gone dark. Ships that were no longer responding. As he watched, another light turned red. Then another. "How many have we lost?" 1,200 ships in the last hour. Approximately 3 million personnel. 3 million. Gone without a trace. A transmission came through from one of the outer ships. The captain's face appeared on screen. His eyes were too wide. His voice was too high. "Something is on my ship. I cannot see it, but I can feel it. It is moving through the corridors. Every room it enters, people disappear. I can hear them screaming, but only for a moment. Then silence. It is coming for the bridge. It is coming for—" The transmission cut off. Kethvor watched another light turn red on the display. "Admiral," one of the junior officers said, "I am detecting something. In the ship. All around us." "What kind of something?" "I do not know how to describe it. It is like a presence, like a weight pressing against my mind, like something very large is looking at us through walls that are not there." The lights on the bridge flickered. When they came back on, there were only 5 officers left. 2 had vanished while standing right next to their companions. No one had seen anything. No one had heard anything. They were just gone. Dreth grabbed Kethvor's arm. "Admiral, we have to do something. We cannot fight this. We cannot run. What do we do?" Kethvor had no answer. In all his years, in all his victories, he had never faced anything like this. The enemy was invisible. The enemy was everywhere. The enemy was not killing them. It was taking them, and they had no idea where. "Send a final message," he ordered. "On all frequencies, record everything that has happened. Maybe someone will find it. Maybe someone will understand." He sat down in his command chair and began to speak. He described everything: the failed attack, the impossible defenses, the dreams and the madness, and now the vanishing. "We came to conquer," he said into the recorder. "We have conquered 164 worlds. We thought ourselves invincible. We were wrong." Another officer disappeared behind him. He did not turn around. Something lives on Earth, something old, something that was here before the humans and will be here long after they are gone. We woke it up, and now it is collecting us. He paused. The weight in his mind was growing heavier. He could feel something vast turning its attention toward him specifically. We are not being killed. We are being taken. I do not know where. I do not know why. But I think, wherever we are going, we will be there for a very long time. The lights went out. In the darkness, Kethvor felt something touch his mind. It was not hostile. It was not angry. It was curious. It wanted to understand him. It wanted to know everything about him. And then it wanted to keep him. "Please," he whispered, though he did not know who he was speaking to. The presence did not answer in words. It answered in images. He saw the crews of his ships, all 12 million of them, floating in a darkness that was not empty. They were alive. They were aware. And they would remain that way, watched and studied and preserved for longer than stars would burn. The Varanthi Dominion had collected species for 2,000 years. Now something was collecting them. Admiral Kethvor opened his mouth to scream. Then he was gone. The eternal supremacy drifted through space, empty and silent. The lights still flickered, the computers still hummed, the food still sat on tables growing cold. But there were no Varanthi left to eat it. There were no Varanthi left at all. 6 months passed. Human ships carefully approached the place where the Varanthi fleet had been. They found nothing but empty vessels drifting through the darkness. 4,200 warships completely abandoned. 12 million soldiers vanished without a trace. The ships were intact. The computers still worked. The lights still turned on. But there was no one inside them. Just empty uniforms lying on floors. Just cold meals on tables. Just silence where there should have been life. Scientists examined everything. They found no bodies. They found no blood. They found no sign of violence at all. The Varanthi had simply stopped existing, as if a great hand had reached down and plucked them out of reality. In one ship, they found a recording. Admiral Kethvor's final message, playing on a loop. His voice filled with a fear that had never been heard from a Varanthi conqueror. "We are being collected." The message spread across Earth quickly. World leaders met in emergency sessions. Military commanders demanded answers. Religious figures spoke of divine intervention. Scientists admitted they did not understand what had happened, but some people understood perfectly. Deep beneath Antarctica, in the facility that appeared on no map, Director Sarah Chen stood before a wall that was not made of ice. It was made of something older, something that moved slightly when you looked away, something that whispered when no one was speaking. A voice came from the wall, not a sound, a feeling that became words in her mind. "The hungry ones have been fed. Your world is safe. For now." Sarah had learned to speak with these beings over many years. She had learned that they were not gods, though they were close enough. They had existed since before Earth had life. They would exist long after the sun burned out. "Thank you," she said. "On behalf of humanity, thank you. Do not thank us. We did not do this for you. We did this because this world is ours. You are simply the current caretakers." "I understand." "Do you? Your species is young. You have much to learn. The Varanthi were nothing. Insects compared to what waits in the dark between galaxies. They will come. Not today. Not in your lifetime. But they will come." Sarah felt cold despite the heated chamber. "What should we do?" "Grow. Learn. Become strong. When the true darkness arrives, we will not be your protectors. You will be ours." The presence withdrew. The wall became still. Sarah stood alone in the ancient chamber, carrying the weight of knowledge that few humans would ever share. 3 months later, the United Nations made an announcement. They revealed the existence of the Antarctic facility. They revealed that Earth had been in contact with non-human intelligences for decades. They revealed that humanity was not alone and never had been. The world changed overnight. Some people celebrated. Some people panicked. Some people refused to believe, but everyone heard the message that was broadcast into space. Human technicians had spent weeks learning to use Varanthi communication systems. They could now send messages across the galaxy, to every world that the Dominion had conquered. On a Tuesday morning, they sent humanity's first transmission to the stars. This is Earth, this is humanity. We send this message to all species who lived under Varanthi rule. Your conquerors came to our world. They sent 4,200 warships. They sent 12 million soldiers. They expected easy victory. They expected us to surrender. They were wrong. We do not fully understand what happened. We do not control the forces that protect our planet. But we know this. The Varanthi fleet is gone. Every ship, every soldier. They disappeared completely, and they are not coming back. The Dominion is ended. You are free. We are not sending warships to conquer your worlds. We are not demanding tribute or obedience. We do not want to rule you. We only want to tell you one thing. Something lives on Earth. Something very old. Something that considers this corner of the galaxy its home. We are its current caretakers. We speak for it as much as anyone can. If you come to Earth in peace, you will be welcomed in peace. If you come as conquerors, you will share the fate of the Varanthi. We hope you choose peace. We hope that one day we can meet as friends. We hope that together, all the species of this galaxy can build something better than what the Dominion created. But understand this clearly. Earth is protected. Earth will always be protected. And those who threaten our world will disappear, just like the Varanthi. We do not say this as a threat. We say it as a simple truth. Come in peace, or do not come at all. The message traveled at the speed of light, spreading outward through the galaxy. It would take years to reach most of the conquered worlds, but it would reach them eventually. On 164 planets, enslaved species would hear humanity's words. They would learn that their masters were gone. They would learn that freedom was possible. And they would learn about Earth, the strange blue world that had swallowed an armada whole. In the years that followed, ships would come to the solar system. Not warships, but vessels of exploration and trade. Species that had been enemies under Varanthi rule became allies. Species that had never known anything but slavery learned what freedom meant. Earth became the center of something new. Not an empire, not a dominion, something gentler, something built on cooperation rather than conquest. And beneath the surface, in places humans rarely visited, the Ancient Ones watched. They did not interfere with human affairs. They did not demand worship or obedience. They simply waited, as they had always waited, for the day when the true darkness would come. On that day, they told humanity, everything would change. On that day, humans would learn what they were really capable of. Until then, they would grow. They would learn. They would reach for the stars not as conquerors, but as caretakers of a world that was far stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. Humanity looked up at the night sky and no longer felt small. They felt chosen. And somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, something ancient smiled at its newest children. The story of Earth was just beginning,